Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire. Welcome everyone to Mindset Artistry. We have another incredible guest, Darren Darnborough. I'm gonna butcher his name because he's British and it sounds like Dubois, but we're just gonna let it slide for this one. And he's gonna reintroduce himself and he's gonna say it in the British way, in the accurate way, so that I won't continue to embarrass myself. But he is a British-born actor working in Hollywood, and his TV and film work includes hit U.S. shows, which we can't really say because of the strike right now. So we'll glance through that and we'll put it in the bio. And he has current projects that he's working on. He has been to South by Southwest and so many award-winning TV shows and projects. But here's the kicker. Darren is also a co-founder and CEO of WeAudition.com, the revolutionary global video chat community for auditions and rehearsals, self-tapes, and advice. Darren is a regular attendee at the top film festivals in the world, including Cannes, Sundance, TIFF, and Busan. He is passionate about cultivating community and supporting and elevating diverse talent around the world. So, round of applause, because I love that. Thank you, Darren, for coming on. We're so excited. I am drinking coffee, as we talked about right before, because I need it today. So, cheers to the coffee.
Cheers for that.
Yes. Let me take a sip.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And so, just so you know, everyone, I was introduced to Darren because I happened to stumble upon We Audition. And if you don't know about it, do your research and you're going to learn more about it in this episode. When I stumbled upon it, I happened to be in LA sometime in May, right around the strike. And I was talking to some actor friends and meeting some people out there. And they were like, whenever you need an audition or a reader, you should check out this website called We Audition. And I was like, what the heck is that? And they were like, yeah, there are actors out there. There's a way for you to connect with them. They're also available whenever you need them to work on rehearsals and auditions. And I was like, this sounds a little suspicious, but okay, I'll try it. And then I did, and I became a member, and it's really affordable. And not only do you get to work with other actors, but as far as like your auditions, but you can also get paid as a reader. So that's how I found out about Darren. And then we end up attending one of his New York events, and then I met Darren in person. And ironically, we got to the bar and I was ordering, I don't know if you remember, but I was ordering it was
Martini.
Yes, espresso martini. And then we stumbled upon a conversation about martinis because I really needed it. So clearly coffee is our connection. Just
there you go.
Yeah. So Darren, thank you again for coming on. Tell us about kind of the difference between, being a British actor and then coming here. Yeah.
I mean, I came to LA because I was really getting bored of London, which sounds absurd because London's an amazing city. But when you just feel stagnant in a place, you've reached a level of where you think you can be, or things were starting to frustrate me. And I just needed new horizons. That's the truth. I just needed to go somewhere that was exciting and different and that I could move at my pace, which I didn't feel like I was doing at London. So I moved to LA. I got myself a artist visa, which allowed me to be an actor here, and just made the move. I only knew one person that lived here at the time, and I barely knew this girl. Like, we just got introduced because I was already moving to LA. So it's through a friend. And then it was just a new environment for me, and it was exciting. And I had to start again in many ways, build myself up. But that was really empowering and exciting. And the way that Americans do business over here really spoke to me in the performing arts career. Because we're known in England for having a very craft-focused mentality towards acting, which I think is great, but I think we lack on the business. And because I've always been an entrepreneur at the same time as acting, and so the business side of it is really important to me, and I see the value of it. And so I would see myself really as an actor that's 50% craft, 50% business. I think I do good work, but I don't discount the other stuff that goes to making that career. Whereas I know a lot of British actors that think just because they're a great actor, that's the whole job. And power to them if they can make that work. I couldn't make it work in that way. And so I really appreciate the American way of doing things.
Well, that's really interesting because I was having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Holly, today, and she's from Canada, and we were talking about the difference between the European actors, how they go to school, and it's required for at least 8 years. They have to go through those 8 years of acting in school in order to be taken seriously in the field. Whereas here, we can do workshops, we can, pop into classes, do quick studio lessons, and then you're considered an actor. And so it was very interesting. We had this in-depth conversation about that. And it's so interesting that you brought up the difference between seeing it as an art, I guess, versus incorporating the US side of like a business, very business oriented, very brand oriented. I think here is very brand oriented, whereas in the European world, it's about the art, it's about the craft. And so to combine that is such a great duality to your art. And I love that you enjoy that aspect of it. So tell me, what were your like challenges as you came here and were discovering this whole business side of it, and then that transition?
I mean, there were a lot of challenges from the start. First challenge is actually being allowed to live and work in America. I mean, that's a huge challenge. If you don't know, if you're not from here, you have to get a working visa. And in order to do that, you have to prove your value in your career at that point in your home country. And so there's all these tests, basically. Have you reached a certain level of income? Have you reached a certain level of work and validation? Have you won awards? Have people written about you in the press? All those things. So the first challenge was putting all that together. And that in itself was really interesting because the British mentality, we put ourselves down a lot. We're very into self-deprecating. We're not very confident as a nation, right? In terms of things like our achievements. And seeing from my American lawyer, the things I had to put together, there were many times when he said to me, hey, you've got to stop playing that down. That's really good. And I'm like, it's just this little thing. We have that mentality of if we book something, we're like, it's just this little thing. And he's like, no, you are on the top TV show in the country, watched by more people than any other show, and you're saying, it was just one episode, it's just this little thing. And actually that mentality I've kept with me. There's a fine line between bragging and just being proud of your achievements or validating yourself. And I find a lot of countries, I know Australia is very subject to this as well, we just sort of put ourselves down because other people will do it for us if we don't. And you get into this mindset. I mean, it's the Mindset Artistry podcast, so we should talk about mindset. You get into this self-deprecating mindset of always feeling like, well, somebody did better than that. And that's where I was coming from. Well, I did one episode of this, but someone else was the series regular. It doesn't diminish what you did. You still made that achievement. And actually looking at all those different things and being forced to put this package together, which I sort of described as basically like a dissertation or coursework at university. You're putting a project together to present to the American immigration of why you should be in the country. And that's incredibly powerful when you get approved, because you're like, wow, I got approved. So America is happy to have me here. But that process of going through your things and realizing that, wait, I did achieve some of these goals and I did do this. And you're in that place where you're constantly striving and hustling and wanting to get to the next level. And it sort of takes stock and goes, well, you've done this. This is great. Now next steps. And then obviously moving to America, everything starts again. I think it's a little different now because TV and film is much more cross-border. We're used to international productions from everywhere, not just the UK. Back then, I'm exaggerating, but if you weren't James Bond, they kind of didn't care. It was, you were either that famous or you weren't at all. And if you weren't at all, then it didn't matter. You had to start from the bottom. So I started doing short films, student films out here, had to hustle to get myself an agent. One didn't fall on my lap. Then I remember it was a year before I booked any work. I had an agent within a few weeks, but it was a year before I booked any work. I didn't get any TV and theatrical auditions at all, even though I had a TV theatrical agent, until I became SAG, which is really interesting. I did student films and things like that, but nothing for a good, a good level. And then I booked a commercial, which got me my SAG, and then the auditions and jobs started rolling in. So it was an interesting process. And then in terms of life, everything was new. I had to figure out a place to live. I had to pass my driving test. I had to build up my credit. It doesn't matter what money or credit you have back in England. You start like a baby here. You start at zero. So you'll go to a bank and ask them for a credit card, and they'll give you a $200 limit if you're lucky. And you're like, okay. So all of these things are challenges, but they're also exciting. And, making new friends. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is building community. And I think I'm good at that because I've moved countries a few times now and had to jump into an already existing ecosystem and industry and friend group. And you have to figure out ways to insert yourself in there and make yourself relevant and make new friends and build your community. Because I think LA specifically would be a very different place with different people. I think that's really important for anyone moving here.
Wow, I feel like you answered every question that popped up in my mind. That's so wonderful already. Well, I wanted to go back to the first thing you two were talking about regarding career, because I coach a lot of actors and models in their career, just building that up and having the confidence and really looking at it as a business. And I wonder what advice, because you were naturally attracted to it and you were okay with that it was a business. And for me, other than being a little awkward with networking, I've had a lot of jobs before acting and kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. So I was like, okay, it's a business. I'm going to do that. But it makes people feel so icky, or they just can't wrap their head around, or they don't want to do it. So what advice do you have for them? Because until I started doing that, I didn't book work. I didn't. Like, I kind of did, but I've been working full time for 8 years now, mostly modeling, sprinkling in a little TV and hosting. But I had to switch to that business mindset. So what advice do you have for people that just it's not natural for them to do that?
Well, firstly, I would say if it's not natural to you, and this is going to sound blunt, get used to it. Get used to it. That's the job. And there might be people out there that argue with me on that. And I would say to them, you can be a great actor. And I cannot dispute that. Who are you going to act for? Yourself? So the job is the business as well. Unless you're a mime artist that goes out on the street and does performance so you can't act alone. Acting is being part of a team. Acting is I hate the word networking, but acting is creating relationships to get the job. It's being able to work with other people. Acting is making money, right? If you want to be a professional actor, and again, this will get disputed all over. We were talking about this a little bit ago with the training. To me, a professional actor is someone that gets paid to act. It's that simple. If I'm a professional plumber, if I fix my friend's toilet, I'm not a professional plumber. If I start getting paid to do that, then it becomes professional. Now, I do want to empower actors that haven't been paid to work yet to treat their career in a professional manner, but I believe you become professional when you get paid. And so the exchange of money, the transactional part of that's business. There's no two ways about it. That's business. You basically work for yourself. So unless you've got a contract with a theater or whatever, you're a self-employed person, or you're a business. I'm an incorporation. So when I work, my corporation hires me out to the production, if you know about loan outs. But even if you're a single person that's not doing that, you're still, your product that's being bought by some other entity. And you can argue that all you like, but that's just fact, right? Now, as the artist, you can have the artist mindset, but how are you going to work as an actor? Okay, you need an agent. That's business. You need a manager. That's business. You need to show up on time to auditions or send tapes in. That's all business and technical. All of these things are are part of it. And if I think the person that says, I just want to act, I don't want to deal with any of that, then good luck finding someone that's going to do all that for you, because the thing is, it's not going to not exist. Someone will have to do it. And there's a lucky few people out there that are such a high level star quality from the outset that they do experience that. Someone does champion them and pluck them and deal with everything. And I've seen that. A few of my friends have done that. And I've also seen them waste a lot of money because they don't know where the money's going. So you can't really, I think if you do get that early success where someone is literally handling all the business for you, the one thing you have to do is watch the money trail closely, because that's when you're being susceptible to being screwed over.
That's brilliant. It made me think of Shaquille O'Neal. I had watched a video where he said that he wanted to do some business classes at an actual university. And he approached one of the professors and said that, I want to take this class. And the person was like, no, you can't take it because it has to be at least 15 people in this class for me to teach it. So he goes, okay, no problem. He paid for all his friends to attend the class, to learn all that business stuff. And that's what's important. If you look at all the celebrities, if you look at all the most successful people in the world, they treat this as a business, not only just the art behind it and the passion behind it. As much as we love the passion of acting and being on set and being on stage and collaborating with actors and directors and writers and all that, this is a business. And when you go on set, you have to also be that professional. Like you said, be prepared. You got to do the work before you get to set. Know your lines, be well rested, hydrate. All those things are a part of the business as well, even if you don't think about it. So I love that you brought that in, and everyone needs to pay attention to the business side of their career and understand, as Nell always says, you are the CEO of your brand. Your brand is you. And I know, just to kind of switch it up a little bit, you talked about incorporating or dropping into already a ecosystem that is very functioning, like as far as friends and the community and the career and the industry, and learning it from scratch. For all those actors out there or creatives who are embarking on something new, that don't know the industry very well, or like are really curious about it, it could be, I want to be a painter, an actor, whatever it may be. What is your advice for someone who is embarking on something so new and they don't have the information? What are some key things to keep in mind about approaching the career and approaching, like you said, the friend group and the people?
My advice for someone doing that is to really get involved, right? Go full in, be committed. And whenever you're doing anything new, understand that this exists with or without you. Unless you're creating this new thing from nothing, which almost never happens in life, you are becoming the new thing or person or product in an already existing ecosystem. So I would say the steps are: understand that ecosystem. So for instance, if you're deciding like me to come to America and partake in the acting community, you should know all about it. And there's ways to do that. Research, simple research. I was reading, not Deadline because it didn't exist at the time, but I was reading Variety and The Hollywood Reporter months before I moved to America. I was getting a feel for the landscape. Little things like in England, we don't have agents and managers. We just have agents, and they take 20%, and that's normal. And if you don't know the knowledge for the next place, you can't understand how to fit into it. And I think you get a lot of respect when you come into anything with that knowledge. I always talk about acting with a dating analogy. If you wanted to take someone out on a date and you're professing how much you want to date them, they would hope you know something about them before you insert yourself into their world, right? And the same applies in any industry. If you come with that knowledge and you come with that passion, and then the next thing is you've got to get involved. You can't sit on the sidelines, and that's going to take extra effort. I've had this discussion with a few friends of mine. I'm naturally friends with a lot of immigrants, and be it from different countries or be it from England in America. And we've talked about why that might be. And we've come up with this. It's just, we appreciate that hustle mindset, okay? In the sense that we have to make stuff happen. If you're an immigrant in a country, you have to make stuff happen. You have to make extra effort. And that's the thing that we landed on, me and my friend, was it's that point. It's the reaching out. It's the following up. You have to make extra effort because you're coming into a place where everyone else is already good with or without you. And so if you want to bring in yourself, you've got to bring value to the conversation. Giving value, that can be so simple. Some people say, well, I don't know how to give value, you know. Well, if you want to be invited to things, guess what? Throw a dinner party. Invite the first 5 people you meet. They will appreciate that. Organize something. That's the easiest thing you can do. Is I used to, not deliberately, but when I first moved to LA, I liked checking out the local places, you know, where I lived. I used to just host happy hours. And it wasn't a formal thing. I'd see a place that was doing a happy hour, a bar I wanted to try. And whoever I'd met that week, I would just text them and be like, hey, I'm going to be here from 4 till 6. Swing by. Sometimes there'd be 20, 30 people. And that's how I built my network. And it was organic. It wasn't, thinking back, I can say that story like it was strategic. It really wasn't. I was exploring a new city and I needed people to do it with. Right? It's a simple, primal thing. But if I moved cities again, and I lived in Vancouver for a little bit and I lived in Hawaii, I would do the same thing because now I see the value. Everyone wants to be thought of. They want to be invited. They want to be included. And the biggest way to do that is do the inviting yourself, you know.
I love that. And Amanda was just saying how I throw parties all the time. Look at that. I guess I did the same thing. Cool.
There you go.
Great. I love, because I'm always everywhere and I'm just such like an open, wild person. So I'm meeting people like all the time. And I've got this silly thing where I'm like, everybody's my friend. That's not true. But I have this like childish, like, want to come hang out? And then all these cool people meet each other. And I just enjoy that, you know.
Well, I think people appreciate that. And for the person that's thinking, well, I'm not that sociable or I don't really enjoy those kind of environments, you can invite people to yoga on the beach, right?
Yeah.
It's whatever floats your boat, whatever you feel like. But you'd be surprised that a lot of people will actually be receptive to something because there's a lot of people out there that like to try something new. So even though you think, oh, these people are, you know, all of those type of people are out drinking in the bars, they might like a beach yoga as well. You just got to try it out and ask them. But if they don't, I think most people appreciate the thought and the invite, and that will help you build community. And that like level of interaction is, I think, what you need to sustain a quality life in any place. And on the career note, an acting career, I've seen a lot of actors come and go through LA, and the ones that seem to make it are the ones that make it their home. They enjoy being here. The ones that are solely focused on the career and they put nothing into the relationship buckets. They put nothing into the health buckets. They put nothing into social buckets. They're the ones that burn out because this career is not predictable and you need that ecosystem around you to be supportive.
Yes, I love that. I'm also always speaking in buckets. I'm sorry, this rabbit is crazy. This is my rabbit.
Hello.
And she keeps trying to chew everything.
You're beautiful.
Yeah, she's so
name.
This is Fig, like Newton.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, Fig.
But my next question was, how do you balance it all? Because I think that's the thing. Like I speak of buckets, like the business, your craft, and self-care, as I'm always talking about. And I don't know how, you know, I'm still struggling balancing it. And now we have this podcast and so much fun, but Amanda and I are kind of like, like this rabbit right now. We just get overwhelmed. At least I do, or I drop balls sometimes. So what advice do you have for people? Because, you know, even just focusing on the 3 buckets, I mean, life's a lot, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how I do it as well, because I do a bunch of things. I like to do whatever's urgent and important first. And over the last few years, for sure, I've decided that health and well-being is a lot more urgent and important. And so I will make sure I take that time for those things that I need to do, the self-care things that that make us work our best. Sleep, exercise, eating well, you know, things like that. I don't skip meals, you know, because I'm too busy. So I used to, you know, I used to have that grind mentality that, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do this. And I'm running here, running there. And actually a friend of mine, she made a LinkedIn article a few years ago. She was up in Silicon Valley, a female entrepreneur that I know up there. And she did this post that got very popular, which was calling bullshit on the hustle and grind mentality. And the point of her article was, why is this glamorized, this working to the bone, like we're hustling so hard? Because someone that wants to appear successful, they were saying for so long, oh, I'm so successful because I'm so busy, I'm on the grind, I'm busy. Actually, if you're successful, you wouldn't be busy, you'd be doing all the chill things that you want to do, right? Because your success is taking care of all of those things. It's not glamorous to be that busy. I've been that busy, and I now have that same level of busyness, but I just manage it in a way where I think first it's a little bit of maturity. Nothing ever goes tragically wrong, generally. So whatever you were worried about probably isn't going to make that much of a difference. And then there's things that require your urgent attention that have deadlines, and there's things that don't. They're just like nice to do's. So I think even if you're not into like making lists or whatever, I make lots of lists and then I never look at them. And the interesting thing is the process of writing it down sort of cements it. But whatever's up here is what I do first, because this is a thing that's on my mind, and that becomes the most urgent or important thing. And so, you know, right now we're doing this podcast. This is an appointment. I have thousands of emails to get through, and they will have to wait until we finish this podcast because we're focused on this. And I think, you know, that's okay. So I think in terms of a mindset, you just got to understand that you'll get to those things. Make sure you get to your health, because without your health and your well-being, you can't do any of the other stuff, you know?
I love that. Ooh, I love that, because we talk about that a lot, of getting distracted by the mundane things, or, you know, focusing on the things that we can do so easily, rather than putting our energy into the things that require our most attention, so that we can do the other things, right? We can, all right, I'm going to spend an hour on this task to do for the podcast, and once I do this, then I can focus on all the other things. So I love that you brought in that dynamic. What did it take for you to be aware of that mindset of how you work, how you function, how you deal with these types of things, whether it, you know, that balance of family, work, business, your career? Because I know for myself, it took me a long time to understand how I work in the best way that I'm effective. So for speaking of a perfect example, I used to distract myself. Oh my gosh, I have to clean my dog. Oh, but I know I put the list together. I did the list last night, the to-do list before the next day. But I'm like, oh, the dishes have to be done. Oh, I have to I have to clean the bathroom. Let me sweep the floor. And so I would get distracted by these little things. And then by the time it hits 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything. And so I had to make a conscious decision of, you know, what's priority, what's important, and what's the best way that I can work, which was time chunking. You know, I would make specific times where I would work and specific days, and then make space for the flexibility for all the other things that come up unexpectedly. So what did it take for you to become aware of how you were able to work the most effective way you were able to work? And did that require you asking for help? Because I know a lot of people have difficulty asking for help and collaborating, going, right, Janelle, can you take this task for me? Because I don't know if I'm good at it, but you are. Can you help me? So what advice do you have, and what did it take for you?
I think everyone's different on these things. And so the most important thing is to understand what works for you. You just explained time chunking, which is a concept that I know. I'm not very good at that. The reason being is one of my fears, or one of my dislikes in life, is routine. I spend my entire life trying to avoid routine. This is why I'm in a creative profession. It's why I'm an entrepreneur. It's why I live all around the world and I travel a lot, because I don't like structure in that way. I get bored. So time chunking doesn't work for me, because I want the flexibility for if a friend texts me right now and says, let's go for a sunset hike, I will say yes, right? I've got things to do. I never don't have things to do professionally. But that idea of a friend saying, if I can go and catch the sunset, nature, exercise, socialize, absolutely, I'm going to say yes. And I've built my life in a way where I can say yes to those things because they bring me joy or health or socializing or whatever it is. Now, there have been a time in my life where I wouldn't be able to I'm too busy. I've got all these things to do that, everything's, and I've just learned that those things I will still get done. And I think that comes down to personal discipline. I don't find it hard to work on my career. I don't find it hard to work on my business because I love it. Even at the times when I'm not having a good time with it, ultimately I love it. And I love the flexibility it gives me. I love the income it gives me. I love all these things. I speak to actors a lot that never seem to enjoy life, right? They never take advantage of the nice things. They're always in that, no, I got to do more. I got to read more. I got to go to class. I got to do this. And one of the things I say to them is, all those months you go without work, without earning a dime, all that stress you have and all that feeling when you didn't get the job and all that, why it's worth it? So that you can hike on a Monday afternoon, right? Otherwise, go get a regular job and then you can't do that, right? So you've got to take those. If a friend says, oh, let's go to Spain on Tuesday, I can say, okay. And that to me is worth the times. And I've had people say to me before, why, you're working on Saturday afternoon? I'm like, yeah, because Tuesday to Thursday, I just had fun, right? And I'm okay with doing that. So I adjust my life. Now, the time chunking thing works somewhat different, but for me, outside looking in, I would say that you have a problem with procrastination. And I
did.
Yeah,
For sure. And I worked on that. And like you, very similar to you, that's how I live now. Like my friend would be like, oh, let's go hiking on a Monday. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, because I know how it's going to feed my soul, how it's going to feed my art, how it's going to feed my life. And so I said, yeah. And I'm like, the work, like you said, is always going to be there. I can
right.
so that's how I live now. Like I do the time chunking when I know I have the time, like on a Wednesday, I'm going, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do like 2 hours and then I'm going to have the freedom to do whatever I want. But yeah, I have that flexibility very much now, and I enjoy it because I did the corporate world. I know what it's like, and I hated it with a passion. That's why I left. Right. I hated that routine. I hated that Monday through Friday, that 9 to 5, and then being exhausted and not having the energy to put into the things that I wanted to do.
Well, so I have another thing to say on that, which is really interesting, is doing the things that you mentioned, doing things that feed your soul. I know that I am more productive when I am happy and when I am calm. When we do something for too long, our productivity diminishes. So this whole idea of sitting, doing your tasks for 10, 12 hours a day, I don't work for that many hours a day. I do work every day, but for a few hours, and then I'll do something else. And then I might come back to it in the evening and do a few more hours. And I guarantee you in those couple of hours, 2-3 hours, I'm getting way more done than my friends that are paid by these corporate companies. I've sat in co-working spaces watching them, and I'm like, I'm actually shocked at how little they do, right? There's a really interesting TED talk called Why Work Doesn't Happen at Work. And I think there's the subtitle is Managers and Meetings. And this guy literally breaks down a corporate day of how much time is wasted literally getting to your desk, setting up at your desk, walking to and from the bathroom, going and getting a coffee, then being called into a meeting. So prepping for that meeting, sitting in the meeting that probably only one tiny bit of it is relevant to you, going back, resetting into your desk. Oh, let's get a coffee. And he broke it down. I think like his whole day, he broke it down to the fact that you only do like 40 minutes of work and actual work, deep work. I'm the opposite of that. I'll do a few hours of deep work and then I'll do all my other stuff. But in terms of your procrastinating, I heard you said there's a lot of mentioning of cleaning and tidying and organizing. I'm the same as you. If I'm in my home's got to be tidy. spick and span before I can sit down and answer an email. Because otherwise I'm like, So I combat that by I go to a co-working space, or I simply go to a coffee shop. Because I know if I stay at home, I will tidy everything up. Now, if my home's tidy, I'm happy working at home. But if it's not and I need to do something, I will leave that environment. And I will go somewhere where I can't be affected by that stuff, and that it's about just understanding. Some people don't like working in a coffee shop. They like working in silence. I love working in the coffee shop because there's a lot of noise and buzz that doesn't affect me and it focuses me in. And that's why I said it's important, I think, to find your own groove, because my method wouldn't be good for someone else,
That's great.
Yeah.
I totally relate. It took me a while to get to understand that and be honest with
You
myself.
have to be open, like to it.
Corporate world definitely ripped that creative intuitiveness from me. And when I left it, I was like, oh, now I can do the things that I enjoy, and I can structure my life the way I want to, or not structure it at all. So I'm totally like that now, and I am way happier and more fulfilled than I've ever been in my life.
Amazing.
Corporate world.
It's been fun to watch you change, because I met you when you were still in corporate, and then now it's been really beautiful. And I love, Darren, that you talked about, I lived in that scarcity mindset for a long time because of being afraid to take a break. I think my first vacation, a real vacation, was in 2019, and my modeling agency was like, wow, we're so glad you're taking a week off, because I didn't come from any money. And I was constantly reminded also by my parents, even on the phone the other day, and my inner child came out and I flipped a little bit, and then I calmed down. Healing. But it was just I was afraid to stop, because then what if I wasn't available for a job? And then funny enough, even but then after I took that first vacation, I was like, this is so silly. And I've had back issues, I've herniated discs in my health. And when you're in those situations, you're I got to get it together. But I was actually in London with my boyfriend and his children, and I booked a job while I was there that I hadn't even applied for, from an agency that I had split from 11 months before that. I wanted to know what advice you have, because a lot of people are, Amanda and I are coaches, right? And we're trying to help people. And with this whole strike, some people have frozen up and they don't want to work on anything. And then doing this for 15 years, I know that there are highs and lows, and I'm used to that. And the lows are really scary, especially once you hit a high, because you're like, okay, I'm making money. And then it's like, boom, something happens. So I found ways for me to get through that. But what advice do you have for others to get through this lower end? Because the worst thing you can do is just stop everything, I think. Has never been healthy for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and I think my best advice is, it was the same as in COVID, right? A lot of people during COVID, I remember having conversations where people were like, when things get back to, or always this, oh, it will end soon and this. And I remember thinking, I don't have any evidence of whether it's going to end soon or not, but this is my current reality. At the time I was living in Vancouver, and people were asking me, when things get back on, and when work gets back. And I was like, I'm not even thinking about that, guys, because I don't even know. None of us know the date. So right now I live in Vancouver, and this is my life. This is what I'm doing. Same as right now, people, because of my position in the industry, in terms of I own a platform and have a lot of experience in many ways, I get asked a lot this absurd question of, when do you think the strike's going to end? And I'm like, I don't know. But I did say at the start, I don't know, but I foresee it going on a while. And I had friends say to me, oh no, I think it's going to end really soon. I'm like, based on what? Oh, I just think it will. I like to be optimistic. And I'm like, I'm not being pessimistic. I'm one of the most optimistic people out there, but I'm like an optimistic realist, right? And the real information was telling me this is not going to be resolved overnight. And that comes back to research and resources. Like I said, I was basing it on a lot of factors that I knew, or that I'd read, or that I've digested in some way, versus my optimistic friends thinking, oh, I'll be over in a couple of weeks. And if you have that mentality, you're destined to be messed around, because it's a little like the mentality of when there's a big discussion right now. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but there's a big discussion in the industry right now about wanting to hear when you don't get a job. There's a lot of people vying for that. And if I ask anybody that wants to hear that, their answer is, well, it's just be nice, because then I said, well, what are you going to get out of that? Because to me, unless I get the call that I get the job, I haven't got the job. That's the no is inherently there in the absence of a yes. Firstly, I don't want to be told no every day. That's not good for the mindset. Secondly, I'm like, what difference will it make to your life if you know that role went to someone else? Oh, well, it means I just get on with my life, they say. I can just get on with my day. I'm like, why aren't you just getting on with your day anyway? There's the problem, is you are basing your idea of something on this potential outcome that you want. It's almost like they're spending the money before they've got it. They said, well, I'll block the time out so then I could maybe go on vacation. I'm like, go on vacation, right? Because I don't know, my ratio is something like 1 in 40 auditions I land, right? I'm not gonna not do things for 39 times. But there's people out there living like that. And so the same, coming back to your original question, the same as with the strike. I look at the strike as, this is my current reality. It's everyone's current reality. So you either do what you can about it, help it, understand it. And I think there's lots of things there as well. There's ways you can be involved if you're so inclined, and there's ways you can just be aware, right? I dislike hearing about it all day, every day, but I read about it every day, and I understand. I know what people are saying about it from all sides and all that kind of stuff. So I'm getting like a robust, rounded idea, which is, I think, why I thought from the start that it wasn't going to end soon. And so I think if you're an actor out there thinking, what can I do? It's like, well, what can you do without the idea of an outcome? Throw that away. What is your situation right now, and what can you do in your situation right now? Because this is your reality until you hear something different. So the same as when you're going for that audition, your reality right now is you don't have a job until you hear that you have a job. So how are you going to handle that day? Are you going to handle that day thinking, well, if I get this job? Or are you going to handle the day going, I'm going to enjoy my day, I'm going to be productive in my day, I'm going to work on my health, I'm going to learn a skill, whatever that looks like. Don't attach it to the outcome that you can't control.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That's very powerful, because we talk about relinquishing and detaching from outcomes, and we as human beings, we want to control everything. We want to control the outcome. Because it makes us feel secure. It's about security. At the end of the day, it's about feeling secure in your business and whatever you're doing. But the truth of the matter is, the unknown is way more powerful than the knowing. It's the progress, it's the journey. If you talk to anyone out there, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, because one, it makes you more diverse and makes you more inclined to put your all into a career when you're on set, because you appreciate it more. You're allowing yourself to be present. If you're constantly thinking about, oh, I didn't get that audition that I really wanted on set, or you actually book something, you're distracting yourself from actually appreciating what you've accomplished. You talked about it earlier about, that difficulty of being, self-deprecating. It's like, you have to be able to celebrate the little wins, even the little things that you may not feel matter. Celebrate who you are, celebrate everything you've done, and celebrate the progress, because when you get there, you can't enjoy the progress anymore. You've got it. You got to go on to the next thing. And so I love that you share that. I mean, you're definitely dropping some gems here that Janelle and I constantly talk about, because we've gone through this journey, and we've gone through like, oh my gosh, I need feedback. What? Asking my manager, like, tell me, like, very early on, like, why did I get it? Tell me more. What do I need to know? And it's like, just enjoy. You got the audition. That's a big win. There are so many actors out there who are desperate for at least an audition or being called in, and that's a celebration. Celebrate that. That's a big win. And so I love that. And I wanted to kind of circle back here. You talked about, having multiple hats in the industry. Let's circle to we audition. I want to explore or understand, like, how did you go about getting this idea, where it came from, and then really having the gravitas to kind of go for it, because we have all these, as creatives, right? We have all these creative ideas, we have all these creative dreams that we want to go after, but there's either fear or someone else tells you like you can't do it because that person tried it and they failed. So what was your journey like, and what is your advice for anyone who is pursuing a creative business endeavor or just a creative outlet somewhere?
For me, something has to be absolutely compelling for me to give my time and attention to it. That can be something like a business, that can be a relationship. It has to be inherently compelling, because I know that I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of my time and energy and resources to it. And I don't think that the word compelling is something you can engineer. I think it's something you know when it is, because it's something you simply can't not do. We've all had that person that comes into our life where like we can't not see them. We've had that thing that maybe it's a vacation spot, a hike in Machu Picchu or something that we can't not do. It's so compelling, we will focus on it. And I think it's important to wait for those moments as well, because they do come. And in this, going back to the dating analogy, when any of us have been in a relationship with the wrong person when we were trying too hard, we realized that it was lacking that thing. We were trying too hard. We were going against our grain. When we did a job that we didn't like because we were trying too hard, and the one that the shoe just fits, and you go, wow, this is so easy. And I think business is like that. So I've always done different types of businesses. At some point, the We Audition came to me through a friend of mine. She was an actress, and she was the first ever YouTube star, one of the first people to get 1 million views on YouTube. So she was an actress in LA, and she had an audition, and she called me up and asked me if I'd be her reader. And I was working on a show at the time. And I said to her, well, no, I'm at work right now. I'm doing a TV show. And it was a sitcom. So it's like a lot of rehearsing and, not a lot of downtime. And she said, well, can you just Skype me then? And I said, no, because I got my own lines to learn right now. They just gave me a new script. They just changed my dialogue on me. I'm scrambling to learn these lines myself. And she sent me about an hour later, she sent me a survey by email or text message. And it was kind of vague, but the questions were pertaining to if there was a group of people that existed, would I basically read with them through video chat from auditions? And I called her and I said, look, I can't speak right now, but take this survey offline. Who have you sent this to? She said, just our friends. I'm like, take it down. She's like, why? I said, because I know what you're thinking. I think it's great. So let's talk about it tomorrow. So we met up the next day or a couple of days later, I forget. And she said, what am I thinking? I said, this. It's like a community of readers that can be available on demand like an Uber. And I think this is a worldwide thing, not an LA thing. And I have experience of building a worldwide subscription platform before. I was running a different company at the time, which I created in 2002, which was a database of promotional staff, brand ambassadors. And so I just quickly saw how this could use the same operational dynamics, but use, instead of being staffing, it's readers on demand. It sounds absurd. This was in 2013. Self-tapes were rare. She was asking me to rehearse with her for an in-person audition. So just to get prepared. But I thought there's a reason why this is going to work, is that she called me and I wasn't free. We live in LA. We know loads of actors. She ended up doing it with her mum in New Zealand on Skype. So I just thought, if me and you find it hard when we live in a place where there's an abundance of our profession, everyone around the world must be finding it just as hard. So let's create that. And we agreed that day to start that journey. And we didn't move that quickly with it, to be honest. We were meeting up, trying to refine what it actually was, refine the brand. Then we started moving on it seriously in 2014, and we launched by March 2015, April 2015. And I will say, in that launch period, it's very compelling. now it's very compelling. You know, it's something that I see the benefit of. I see how people like it, and I can't not do it. There'll be a time when I do get bored of it. There'll be a time, you know, I got bored of my last company. You naturally do. So I think for anyone, getting back to your original question, for anyone out there, what's the advice is, if you're going to do something well, you've got to really want to do it. There's things that you will half do otherwise. And I don't think anyone succeeds half doing stuff. You might for a little bit, you know, you might get that little win, that extra bit of income. But if you want to master something, and, you know, so for instance, any level of mastery, whether it's Serena Williams playing tennis or it's Will Smith, you know, whoever you're looking at, that's an absolute master, they did it committed for a long time. And I think that's the key between mastery and just getting on with something.
That's great advice. I hope everyone takes that, because it's true. Even with our art, I think I was speaking to a friend of mine's last week, and she was like, you know what, I'm grateful for the strike. Not to say it's a bad thing. I know, like, I'm grateful for it because it's happening, but I needed a break. I was actually getting burned out. And so I'm, you know, grateful for the time to like settle in and now focus myself into the things that I want to do, which is like, I want to, you know, she was saying she was writing and like exploring other options and other avenues of her creative outlets in her career. And so she was like, you know, I'm kind of grateful for it because I was getting burnt out and I was losing interest in
Was she busy as an actor?
Yes, she was.
Right. So, because I have a lot of friends like that took the time to take a long vacation because they were working non-stop, right? Non-stop. Unfortunately, I've also seen the opposite, which are people that have been empowered by the strike. I'm concerned for those ones, to be honest, because suddenly they've got this sense of camaraderie that you would get from going to set every day. They have this networking that they never had before because they weren't working. And I can see that I saw some Instagram posts the other day that had this air of disappointment almost that the writers had reached the agreement. It was subtle, but it were people that were out striking and picketing every day. And you could tell that it was like a bittersweet melancholy. Oh, well, now this is over, then I won't see all my friends on the picket line. And I think that's kind of dangerous if you're in that zone, because the point should be to get us back to work. And it's amazing that you found camaraderie in that way, but it's not going to last, right? Because the job is the job.
Yeah, I guess that's what I never thought of. Really interesting perspective. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this all day, every day. And I want to wrap this up, but what is your last bit of advice for creatives out there, actors or business entrepreneurs that are either, because, you know, the mindset is what mindset artistry is. What is your advice for those who may be struggling or feeling they lost clarity? Any advice that you would leave with any of those creatives? Yeah, trying to find the word.
The through line of this whole chat, really, I think community is incredibly important. So don't do it alone. There's people out there that are interested in the same thing. There's people out there that can support you. It might be your friends. It might be other colleagues. It might be people that are having the same journey as you. The fact that you're listening to this podcast, you're on this journey like me and you are. And there's other podcasts like this. Get involved in them. Some of them do live events, right? Find your people, find your community. And getting back to the point we made at the start, if there isn't one, then create it, right? Because everything is easier when shared. It always is. And we will be sponges from each other. We'll learn things. And, you know, you asked me a lot of my advice earlier about how I deal with my day and all my different hats. You know, we didn't mention this at the time because we went off in a different direction, but I listen to a ton of podcasts like this. I read exclusively self-help books, business books. I think because I read enough stories in scripts that I don't really read fiction that much because my work is fiction. But looking at those, all of the techniques that I use, they're they're derived from something I read here or something I heard there. And I take the bits I like and I leave the bits I don't like. And that's how I constantly evolve as a person. I'm constantly doing that. I'm constantly picking up new ideas. And so if you're struggling with anything, I'm like, there's never been a better time to get all this information for free at your fingertips or for very low cost, like the cost of a book. And that can be massively life-changing. So read lots, listen lots, and form your community and go and share what you learned with other people. Help them, give value to them, and you'll get the value back, and you'll suddenly realize you're unstuck, you know?
Oh, I love that. We've always said to, live your life as an actor. And I think you spoke to that very highly. Live your life. And that contributes to your art, that contributes to your business. Because if you don't, then you're going to be very robotic. You're going to be pulling from places that are not authentic. You're going to be, you'll just be so blocked, and you wouldn't be able to collaborate and connect with the craft, with the story, with the character, and with the world around you. And that's what we do. We are storytellers. You
100%.
can't tell a story if you're not experiencing them, or at least opening yourself up to witness them.
I absolutely agree. And when we talked about travel and experience, right? Acting at its core is the portrayal of human experience, right? Can we agree on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you portray human experience unless you have human experience? That's your one job, is to channel experiences in life and bring them to the story. And so it really amazes me when I see people so committed to the craft that they don't do anything else. And, they're the ones that will end up making a short film about a struggling actor and their day-to-day endeavors, because that's all they know. And we've all seen those short films. An actor makes a film about auditioning. You're like, no one else cares about that. Like the world at large doesn't care about your day as an auditioning actor. But then these stories that come out and these films that we watch, they're always about some interesting person somewhere, And I think if you can collect experiences and have heartbreaks and have insight and have novelty in your life, that's what's going to make your characters rich and interesting and emotional.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to drop Darren's all his social media content, We Audition, and all the good stuff. We have a promo code for you all to get a little bit of a discount for your membership. And if you don't know, now you do. So thank you. Always come back. We'll have a new episode. Thank you again for joining us, Darren. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful to see you.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
we'll see you next time.